up, everybody? Scuffy here. As you can see, I'm wearing the Hood of Darkness tonight, actually. It's just a little chilly in the house. And, the hood's nice and thematic. Turn the lights on, turn the lights off. It's spooky. It's been a busy week for me. And, we're getting into something here. Hang on. Let me go ahead and exit out of this replay here. Wouldn't mind watching it, but I've got things to do. I've been pretty swamped at work, in real life, trying to squeeze in some stuff. Just started getting running on the lodge points, and we're taking our spot, North Star Luna Wolves Lodge. I hope you enjoyed it, your time up there. You guys can still hang out, but I think we're going to take top 3 again. That's our goal. We started. Reinforcements are here. God, there's so much to talk about, guys. There's so much to talk about. First off, I missed the last patch of updates that they did a week ago, I want to say, with the primarchs, and that's big news. That's big news. They went back to several of the primarchs, and they updated them right before they released this faction. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the updates that they just did yesterday or the day before. And then talk about something I've noticed here, and I don't know, I honestly think that there's been some soft patching into the updates. And we'll talk about that in just a second. And if I'm wrong, but it seems to be the case from what I'm seeing online, discussing with others, as well as my own personal experiences. So first off, taking a look at the collection here, and I've just picked up some extra cards from the Ultramarines and the Orphans of War. Snagged myself a Mantle of Ultramar from my 12 win crate, so that's nice. That just leaves me with Gilliman, because that was the only one I was needing, and now I need him. And then I picked up several epics. I got one of this guy here, and then I also got 2 of these guys. So that was a great steal. And then I'll talk more. And combined with the stuff I picked up from the rewards crates, I think really, aside from Urlock, I can pretty much pick up all the rest of the legendaries in the shop when they come around fairly quickly. And I made sure to pick up Double Agent because I just like this card. I want to do something with it. Anyways, Sons of Horus. First off, Horus, all cards. Let's get into that. He is now a high initiative. To go with that, Fulgrim is now a high initiative. To go with that, Ferrus Manus is now a medium initiative. I'm just tapping on here, so if you don't know who these guys are and you haven't seen them, this is where they're at currently. And Korax has had his reckoning restored, finally. He took a lot of hits. I mean, Raven Guard took a lot of hits in general. His reckoning form is still the same. However, upon transforming, he gets stealth one last time. And for Korax in general, that was always such a big deal. If your opponent doesn't have any more anti-stealth, you can guarantee at least 7 damage coming from using his ability and hidden attack. So it's kind of like that last duck and weave strike, and it's nice that he's finally got that restored to him. Between all the other changes that the Raven Guard have underwent, I think they're still balanced, but through the course of those changes, just from that wave there, and that doesn't even include what they did to Valdor's Reckoning and Perturabo, I've already seen an increase in Horus's and an increase in Fulgrim's to some degree. I haven't really seen anything different with Valdor. I've seen more Perturabos for sure. Oops, too close to the icon. Perturabo's Whisper, now instead of... it used to be, -1 cost when a friendly troop dies during your turn. It used to be when a Iron Warriors die during your turn, which was hard to do, given the fact that there are a few Iron Warriors troops that you actually want to have in your deck. which is the general complaint, because they're just not so great. And the ones that you do are going to sit back and pump things out, and you're not going to be really using them to aggro it, so it was kind of counterproductive. So you tend to use a lot more infantry and other neutral cards. Well, that kind of gets rid of that. I haven't seen a Whispers Perturabo, but I have seen him go up in terms of his being used. And then, of course, Valdor's Reckoning hasn't changed, but it's dropped down in cost. And then his ability when he reckons, I believe that has changed. Well, I'm just taking a look here at the notes. Yeah, so instead of it being used to be at a 2 energy, now this costs 1 energy. So, if you've got 10 energy here, you can pump him up to a 13 with first strike, and that's just lethal. That's not counting any other bonuses that the Emperor Spear might have on table from things such as Mikalur or these guys' Termala support. So that was wave 1, and I didn't get a chance to get around to it. Those have been out there since 11.7. We are 8 days into that. So you should have some familiarity to that. That's nothing new. And then just not the 8th. I'm looking here, Wednesday. 2 days ago. 2 days ago, we got some changes to the word bearers, which is great because I felt that was coming, and I was holding off on a card by card, so I will be doing a card by card on these guys very soon, because I think between the initial wave, there was a couple waves that they did with Erebus and Argol Tal, and now they've tweaked some things with Lorgar. So Lorgar still has his Whispers is the same, but now he has this interesting thing here. Instead of paying 1 before, I don't know if it was pay 1, I think it was pay 2 to give Demon Host to a troop. Now you create a Dark Gift in your hand. And Dark Gift is this wonderful new card that gives Demon Host to an Astartes or infantry, which is a combination of several of the card arts that we've already seen here, right? We've got Demonic Eyes. There's not much difference there, but the wonderful thing is 5 or 6 turns into the game, you could have 5 of those and drop them all on at once. And if you remember correctly, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the one that they just start getting at the end of it also. 4, 5. If you pump him up with 5, he's got all the gifts, and then the 6th one, he starts to get +2, +2, and +2, +2, and +2, +2. While some of those word-bearer troops already come with Demon Host popped on. So you could technically save yourself some time late game and suddenly, create yourself a monster that not only is a monster, but they've also got ward to boot. I'm very curious to think how it applies with troops that are demons, Astartes, but they don't specifically have the demon host. And through the course of playing word bearers, I really haven't tested this really to begin with, because it's always been a random factor. But I'm very curious to see if these guys have already got ward and cleave 2. Do they get cleave 2 plus cleave 2 and therefore have cleave 4? You can't get ward more than once. Or does it duplicate? Do I give them Demonic Eyes? Now they have ward, but they also have Demonic Eyes, which also gives them ward. I don't know. I'm going to have to do some playtesting and test with that. But Lorgar jumps up in terms of his ability to do stuff late game. And keep in mind, and this wasn't any different than it was before, but keep in mind that Demon Host troops count as demons for his Whisper, which is reduced by, is it -2 or -1? Hang on here. I got to remind myself here. -2 for each friendly demon in play. So late game, if you've got 4 Demon Host troops on board, this is an 8-cost Whisper. It's very possible now, especially considering the fact that you can hold this in your hand. Now that does come at some price, depending on who you're facing. If you're facing an Alpha Legion, you might not want to hold a handful of Dark Gifts, but it's nice. And of course, I'm just saying this all as if everybody's got Lorgar. I realize that not everybody does, but it's nice because we have not seen Lorgar in play from those who have him. Most people have been playing Argol Tal or Erebus if they're playing Word Bearers at all. And I think when we get Corphaeron, I really think he's going to be the 4th Warlord when we get him. We're going to start seeing some word bears because he's nasty. He was nasty in the event. So Dark Blessing, this is another card. So there's some of these changes here that got changed. Not only is this giving Demon Host, this was originally just Reflection, give Demon Host. Now it's also giving a +1/+0. So you're pumping up. And word bears have got so many ways to pump up cards, but this makes it beneficial to really drop this as like for 8 energy. Not only are you giving Demon Host, but you're pumping up your unit by 4, basically 4 attack. So that's nice. And then that could go in handy if they happen to get Flank and Terror. You know, just throwing that out there. The Book of Lorgar, which has a very powerful effect, but kind of loses that momentum when you play it. Now has the momentum restored, I think, in terms of adding 2 lesser demons to your hand as a play effect. So not only are you giving that maintenance cost to your maintenance ignore to your warlord, you're getting 2 cards in your hand, which are lesser demons that will go in conjunction with the Book of Lorgar, and depending on what you get, they can be very, very usable. So that isn't for every Word Bearers deck, but that does become a reason to include it more than it was before. It was kind of like you need the demons in hand to play on your next turn. Well, now you're going to have demons in hand. So that's great. You're going to have 2 of them. Secret Devotion, which, where is that here? Is that? Oh, that's right. That's right. They changed the description. This ability hasn't changed much. But before it was just a random cultist, and it was like, what does that mean? Well, now it specifies a 2-cost cultist. Same troops, same units. This is just worded more clearly for those of us who like specific wording. Now, Architect of Heresy, this change I like a lot, although it still has the stun box on here. It doesn't do that anymore. It used to say take control of an enemy infantry or Astartes or stun another unit. Now, instead of stunning that unit, that troop, you can return it back to their hand. And that's really nice because you're getting, if it's a nasty vehicle, Telemon Dreadnought, you can return it to hand, and then that front line's gone. If it's a trying to think, all the beefy frontline from the Mechanicum, frontline vehicles that they've got there, you could bounce those up there. Slayer of Worlds, it works wonders on because you return it to their hand and the cost goes back up to 15. They got to start all over again. Anybody who had their Slayer of Worlds bounced by Ambassador Melgator way back in the day can attest that that's really, really frustrating. So solid card, solid upgrade to an already decent card, but it was kind of frustrating as the game was a conglomerate of things. And now it's got a little bit more oomph to its use. So I like that. And that is the changes. Now, with these changes, I haven't seen word bearers too much yet where I'm at on ladder, but I can attest that the primarchs have changed. Can't hear myself. The primarchs have changed. I've seen Horus more. I've seen Fulgrim, surprisingly. I've seen a bunch of Alfarius. And I think, honestly, Alfarius is in response not to these changes, but to the inclusion of the Orphans of War card pool. I think people are going for the stun to counter Tarsa and limit his ability to give Survivor to troops. I've come across a couple Tarsas. I think I've fought 4 and I've lost 1. He's beatable. It's hard for some decks, especially decks that don't have troops to counter his board presence. Because once he gets a board, he's going to keep a board. Unless you've stymied that and you have 2 conquerors in hand, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for, especially if it's the generic Tarsa that just drops generic front lines and gives them Survivor. And a big argument that some people have had with Tarsa specifically is his ability doesn't synchronize with Orphans of War cards. It works with neutrals wonderfully. So why even have any of these wonderful cards in your deck? Which is a good argument. That's not an unsound argument. I think And again, just as I've said with the Word Bearers cards, I mean, there were some changes. I think we're going to have some changes with the Ultramarines still, because I'm not seeing them too much on ladder either. And then eventually we'll get around to some of these Orphans of War changes, unless they're massively overpowered right out the gate and there's enough complaints about it. And that's entirely possible too. But these guys are strong. The event is fun with them. I've gone through multiple runs with Tarsa, with what's his face, Har, and with now Urlach as an option. And there are some decks that are great, and there are some decks that are bad decks. I would strongly urge people to stay away from Final Mission. I think it's a bad deck for Urlach. And other than that, I mean, some of it is just random luck. The Sentenced and the Stealth is a pain in the butt, but make sure that you pick a deck that has either, board-wide damage or anti-stealth to some degree. But it's fun. I enjoyed it. But what I'm noticing here, and this is what I wanted to get to and talk about. Now, the last two events, and actually all the way back since the Thousand Suns came out in Prospero. I would say Thousand Suns, because Space Wolves I didn't notice much. I started to keep an eye on that with the Thousand Suns and onward. The guaranteed card, each time there's a new event that features a new faction, every crate that you get in there has got one card guaranteed from that faction. And typically, the display here is different, so you can't quite see it, but typically crate wins from 0 wins to, I believe it was all the way through to 8 wins. It was guaranteed to be a common with the chance of being a higher rarity. From 8 wins on was guaranteed to be a rare or higher. Usually, and this is through the course of Thousand Suns, Adeptus Custodes, all of the follow-up events that followed during Prospero, which I don't even know how many there were, including the raid event. So, I mean, I'm going to just spitball, given the neutral warlords that we got. I'm going to say at least another 3 events. 3 events there, plus the Word Bearers, plus the Ultramarines. Now, that's 1, 2, 3, 6, 8, at least 8 events. Times 2 is 16 weeks, right? 16 weeks, 4 months worth of experience in terms of crate rewards for those events. And 70% or more, those guaranteed rare or higher from the 8 wins to 12 wins crates were always a rare. It would be like the 70, that would be like the 1 out of 10 would be an epic. Hardly ever a legendary. I think I've gotten, in terms of like the release for the faction, I got 1 legendary for Ultramarines, which was nice. It was the McCrag, so I'll take that. But that's over the course of a bunch of events, right? Now, granted, some of those events weren't new faction debut events. There was a lot of chatter in my lodge. I think it's somewhat in the Discord. It's just a lot of displeasure with the Ultramarines rewards, how it was looking. The pull rate. Now, I know some people got legendaries. That's entirely possible. I got 1 over the course of 2 weeks. Over the course of, I don't know how many runs, because we took 3rd there, and I don't know how many runs I made. Probably like a dozen runs. That might be an exaggeration. Maybe like 10 runs. 10 runs times 10 crates is 100 crates, and I get 1 legendary for my troubles. Didn't seem right. I still don't agree with the amount of gold that's rewarded in a 12 win compared to the amount of gold that's rewarded in a 0 win, which is like a 10 gold difference. You tell me how that makes sense, that if I play 12 wins and I get that I only get 10 more gold. That's topic for another time. I don't want to sound like it's a rant or complaint, because I think it's really at this point time founded for new players who are trying to get into the game and get in-game currency. I think it's a very relevant topic and discussion to have, but it is a discussion topic. Otherwise, it just sounds like I'm ranting. But what I do have is I've noticed since the Orphans of War came out, all of the event runs that I've had with the Orphans of War, and I've had about 8 now, the rewards in their crates have been better, in the event crates. And to go with that, my challenge rewards, this is my challenge reward. Now, you can get legendaries in a challenge reward. This is today. I shared that because I thought that was like, okay, I mean, I've got Horn Raiment, but nice, a legendary. This is also today. That's my free crate from today. That's entirely possible, right? Yesterday it was 2 epics in a free crate and my challenge crate. My last run was a 12 win, and normally, by comparison, again, for all those events that I've played in the past, in my 12 wins, it would usually be 8 to 10 rares of the new faction, with 1 maybe an epic, 1 or 2 maybe an epic, and usually it wasn't the case. Usually it was all rares. The 12 win this time around was 8 of the 10 were epic and 2 were rare in a 12 win crate. Gold was still the same, you know, and I really don't know. I didn't share those in the lodge, although I should have, but it was just on opening crate mode. But I found that very interesting. Actually, you know what? I do have a screenshot. Let me go into... Pay no attention to the madness in my head. So here's the screenshot of the crate. Now, you open crates so many times, you kind of get inundated with them in your head. For the longest time, I feel like, and I have to go back on my Discord and like some past crates that were shared by players, but you've got the top 3 there, and then you've got your bottom 3, and currently the Orphans of War cards are showing up in that 4th spot, that first in the bottom row. Although I'm almost certain that up until this expansion, they were popping in the spot where Hidden One is, and I'll have to take a look. I don't want to say too much, but I feel as if they've been moved, is what I'm trying to say. I'm gonna get so I feel as if they might have been moved, and you as players, and then once I'm done wrapping this up, I'll be able to confirm it with myself. I might tweak this out, edit, or put a disclaimer down there whether I'm right or wrong, to find out for sure if they have been moved in terms of where they're positioned in the crate, and if that has anything to do with it. I don't know. I really don't know. But I've always felt as if that second card spot was the new faction, and it was always a disappointing rare. And then everything else was like, yeah, cosmetics, yay, legendary cosmetics. Ooh, oh, look, it's an epic card that you don't really need 2 copies of. But that's not the case. That's not the case as of this start of this event, and I don't know if that's just my own personal experience. In talking with other lodge members, I think we've had similar experiences. So we're seeing that here on our end. And I don't, if you're seeing anything differently, if you're still having the same pull rates, if you think your pull rates have changed, please put a comment. Let me know, or hit me up on Discord, because I'm very kind of curious to see. Because I sent them a note, and there's been some, like I said, there's been some chatter. I know some players have done some negative reviews on some of the app stores. I sent them an email into yeah, so that's what I got. This is during the Ultramarines event. We'll discuss the situation in the team and we'll evaluate possible tweaks for the Orphans of War release and think more carefully about it for future expansions. Because really, what I was saying here, it just doesn't seem right for a long-time player perspective, it doesn't seem properly balanced. And for people who want to get in with a new faction, you want to play a new faction, you want to pick up a new, if you're a new player, you want to jump right in. It's really frustrating when all you're getting is commons, and you're getting commons all the time. You don't have enough gold gain in the crates to bank enough to get these new crates, let alone gems. So it can be really frustrating. So that, suggestion. I know there's been players over the course of months that have really kind of said that it's been frustrating in terms of the reward system. It has not been put up in their announcements as far as the changes, updates, but I feel as if it has been updated, and I hope so. I hope that is the case. I hope that this just isn't just a good 2 weeks or 7 days, rather. Currently, we're 7 days into it. A good 7 days of luck for me. I just doesn't seem like it, because it's not just me. You've got other players in my lodge that have had the same experience. So I'm very kind of curious to see if this progresses, and if it does, that's a good thing. That's a good thing for the game, for new players, old players alike. It means that they're listening, if that's the case. They don't have to say that they're listening or that they're tweaking things, but it's nice to know if things are getting tweaked. So that was the last thing that I really want to talk about. Updates. We've had them. I think we're in the clear. I'm going to do a word bearers card by card. I've also got a couple other ideas in the pipe. I did some really stupid stuff today, which I don't think I'll put up for like another, whatever, after the day after Thanksgiving. It'll be my gift. It'll be my gift to you guys, and you can hate me for it. We've got eventually I'll do the card by card for the Ultramarines too, and go into the end of November season breakdown. Talk about some ideas for whatever it is I'm going to run in December. I might just run shit. I'll be honest with you. I might just instead of sticking with one warlord, change it up. I've looked back, and this entire year I've run a warlord for 2 months consecutively back to back, and that's nice. That second month sometimes just tends to drag, and I don't know if that's just because I get bored with it, or things have changed. I know in a couple of the months the meta shifted, and you could tell games became harder. People became a little bit more aware of the strategies, but overall, I think part of it just becomes bored. So I might just change up my play style come December, if not December, January. Start a new year right, and maybe that'll open up some brain cells in my head to do some more deck list discussions or whatnot. But I've got some stuff coming. So that's it. I hope this isn't gone too long. Just wanted to touch base, let you guys know I've been busy, but I've been good busy. This is the weekend now, so I'm hopefully getting back on track, getting back into the events, touching up on what's going on in the game, and kind of curious to see from everybody else what your experiences are with crate rewards. So please let me know. Are you seeing an increase in regards to what's showing up in your event crates? Your good event crates, 0 wins is still 0 wins, but I mean, is your 8+ event crates, are those rewards looking better to you, especially in regards to the new faction cards? What about your challenge crates and your free crates? Are we seeing any increase in the rarity? I mean, the free crate is really like it's a long chance, but am I alone in this or not? Let me know, because I feel as if there's been a positive change that has not been announced. And I would really like to announce it, but I can't confirm, and I don't want to get people's hopes. I mean, it really isn't. And what do you say? Like, hey, we might be getting better stuff, but there's still a chance that you don't get better stuff. So I'll just keep it to myself. So that's it for me, guys. It's 9:43 p.m. It's a Friday night. Normally, I had plans to do Bar Night Legions tonight. I've got to postpone that till next week. So that's also something that's coming up. busy, but a good busy. So that's it for me. We'll talk to you next time, and keep playing Legions.
And now it's time for Chewbacca Believe It. He's got the good stuff. You know, there's something to be said about Chewbacca against Angron. It's always a deadly pull, and in this instance I don't think that's any exception. Sarek Landspeeders. With Russ? Okay. Now the fact here that he didn't go for Chewbacca a second time just lets me up the ante a tad more. Not only did Chewbacca have the good stuff, but Chewbacca was willing to give the good stuff. And by that, I mean another direct damage. 2 more, okay, sure. You know what? Let's make the most of it. Let's go full tilt, baby. It's getting close, but I've got enough in my hand, and he just drew the fire. I think he was realizing that things were getting risky, dicey. Too little, too late, Angron. And with that being said, that gives me all I need to wrap this thing up. Chewbacca, believe it.
Alright, that wraps it up for me. If you liked what you saw, feel free to like and subscribe, add any comments below, and if you think the video might be useful or the series might be useful, feel free to share that with other players that you know as well. And we'll talk to you later.